The United States is sending more ships, more troops, and more firepower into the Middle East. And that almost never happens when a war is ending. It happens when a war is about to enter a new phase. As Washington expands its military presence in the region, Iran is still striking back. The Strait of Hormuz remains under pressure, and even areas linked to NATO's defensive structure are now feeling the effects of this escalation. What we are watching is not the end of the conflict. It is the beginning of a much more dangerous, much more dispersed, and far more unpredictable phase. Today, on Conflict Front, you'll understand why the United States is reinforcing the region right now, how Iran is still able to operate even after devastating attacks, and why this war is no longer just about military strikes. It is becoming a broader contest of endurance, pressure, and regional risk. The first clear sign of this shift is the American buildup, because when more troops begin to arrive, the message is not that the crisis is winding down. The message is that Washington is preparing for a conflict that could become longer, more unstable, and more expensive. Even after major strikes, Iran's military structure is still functioning. That is because of a concept often described as mosaic defense. Instead of relying entirely on a centralized command, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is built around dispersed units, distributed arsenals, and local operational autonomy. In simple terms, Iran can lose part of its leadership, suffer severe damage, and still retain the ability to respond. And that is exactly where the danger begins. Because the more decentralized a war becomes, the greater the risk of miscalculation, poor coordination, and wider regional escalation. And signs of that are already appearing in Turkey. Turkish authorities said NATO defenses intercepted another missile coming from Iran, and an explosion was heard near Incirlik, a highly strategic installation for the alliance. Even without confirmation that the base itself was the direct target, the message is serious. Once Iranian missiles begin crossing airspace near such sensitive sites, the conflict is no longer just an exchange between two adversaries. It begins to brush up against much larger military structures. And that is exactly the kind of development that changes the scale of a war. At the same time, the United States is also beginning to pay a higher price for the pace of operations. The crash of a KC-135 refueling aircraft in Iraq, killing 6 American personnel, is a reminder that an intense war does not produce only direct combat losses. It also generates strain, fatigue, accidents, operational stress, and cumulative wear. But there is one front where Iran may be exerting even more pressure than on the battlefield itself: the Strait of Hormuz. That is where Tehran is trying to compensate for its conventional military disadvantage. Rather than seeking a direct battlefield victory over the United States, the strategy appears to be different. Disrupt energy flows, pressure global markets, and make this war increasingly costly for Washington and for the wider world. And that changes everything. Because Iran may not be able to defeat the United States in raw firepower, but it can still hurt the global system exactly where it is most vulnerable: energy, trade, and political cost. In the end, that is what defines this moment. The United States is reinforcing its presence because it knows the war is far from settled. Iran is still reacting because its structure was designed to survive even under heavy attack. And the result is a conflict that is becoming more dispersed, more unstable, and more dangerous by the day. The message now is clear. This war is not winding down. It is entering the phase where any mistake, any misread signal and any regional spillover could push the conflict into something far bigger. If you want clear, direct analysis of the wars shaping the world, subscribe now to Conflict Front and turn on notifications, because here we track the conflicts that move the world.